I've rounded up the weirdest Supreme Court briefs that argue against allowing gays and lesbians to marry. Some are full of mistakes, others have baffling arguments, and at least one is incredibly sexist and signed by a member of Congress. For the American Foundation for Equal Rights, I'm Matt Baum, and welcome to Marriage News Watch for April 20th, 2015. Here are just some of the stupefying arguments presented to the U.S. Supreme Court ahead of oral argument next week. Gay and lesbian Americans shouldn't be allowed to marry each other because most citizens are in favor of that, and also most citizens aren't. Marriage equality is bad for kids, according to a study that had nothing to do with marriage equality. Also, religion, tradition, and straight people don't actually want to marry each other, so if gay people can marry each other, straight people will lose interest in marriage? Maybe the strangest brief came from a group called Same-Sex Attracted Men and Their Wives. These are gay guys who married straight women and who seem to think that the case will result in a, quote, mandate requiring same-sex marriage. It won't. Don't worry, nobody's going to be required to have a same-sex wedding. The brief also argues that gay people shouldn't marry each other because that implies that there's something wrong with marrying straight people. Another brief claims that the children of LGBTs do worse when their parents get married, but as proof, it cites a 1995 study, which was 9 years before marriage equality was legal anywhere. Another says that gays have so much public support that they shouldn't be allowed to marry because, well, that's never really explained. And it contradicts Nam's brief that gays don't have enough public support. Then there's a brief signed by the leaders of the 2012 Republican National Convention Committee on the Platform. That's Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, former Republican National Committee Vice Chairman James Bopp Jr., and Carolyn McLarty, chair of the RNC's Committee on Resolution and a retired veterinarian. Their argument that men are so promiscuous and women so emotional that they need to marry each other to control those impulses. They also argue that only straight couples and their children can fight tyrants and totalitarian regimes. No explanation for how that works. It also claims that the average gay relationship lasts 1.5 years. Again, this is a brief paid for and signed by Republican Party leaders and at least one member of Congress. It's probably a good thing that the arguments against marriage equality are so convoluted. It's certainly not helping the case for preserving those marriage bans. Oral argument is going to be the morning of April 28th, so keep an eye out for that. That's next Tuesday. Hopefully this is the last time that we'll have to roll our eyes at arguments like these. Subscribe here on YouTube to stay up to date on all these stories. For the American Foundation for Equal Rights, I'm Matt Baum. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.